this story, think of the windswept beauty of the Scottish Highlands. I mean, when you think of areas of the UK, outstanding natural beauty, everyone's got a bit of a list. Different places, whether historic castles, it could be certain villages, you know, Cotswolds. It's not long before you stumble on the phrase, the Scottish Highlands. You think of the beauty, the innate beauty that comes from that region of this country. Well, it's come under a bit of a threat, actually, from wind farm projects, which are set to change the appearance of the landscape forever. I mean, you've got to be really careful what you do with your windmill thing. Pavements are soon to be a lot more of a trip hazard as the government announces a grant scheme for steel EV charging gullies. And speaking of tripping, a council in the Wirral has painted bizarre yellow and orange what's-it road markings to enforce its low traffic neighbourhoods. The question is, how much uglifying of Britain are people prepared to take? Meanwhile, by the way, the government's announced a £25 million scheme for EV charging. Residents can now apply for a metal gully for a curbside parking. Councils will cover 75% of the cost, with the resident providing the other 25%. Let's speak to Harry Wilkinson, Head of Policy of the Global Warming Policy Foundation. Afternoon to you, Harry. You kind of wonder how much jip and nonsense has to happen before somebody goes, hang on, you know, we're changing the landscape of the UK, we're digging up paths, we're painting giant chalk whatsits onto pavements, before somebody goes, can we just stop this madness and think again?
Well, it's been a tidal wave of net zero nonsense today, unfortunately. But there is something that's connecting all of this, which is that net zero is fundamentally a less efficient, less productive way to meet our energy needs. High costs are inherent to net zero, but also because renewables are less dense energy sources, they require much more land, much more infrastructure. What a nuclear power could generate in a single site would need hundreds of thousands of acres of wind turbines to produce. So what that means for our precious landscapes, like the Highlands, is that they have to be plastered across with these wind farms. Treasured views all over the Highlands will be destroyed, and of course we'll have to spend huge amounts of money on the kind of grid infrastructure to connect that power to where the energy is needed. And you know, this costs an awful lot, because at the moment these wind farms are actually not able to get that power to where it's needed, so we have to pay them to switch off for huge amounts of time. So
it's a double payment.
That's why people can see their energy bills rise. Yeah.
What's interesting as well about this, and you will know this, Harry, as well, when you try to have an argument, even just a reasoned debate with somebody about the, you know, let's call it the disproportionality of emphasis, financial and effort that is put into this. I have no objection to somebody saying we found a parallel energy source, we think it could work. Well, OK, let's give it a go in the wings. It can run. We can see what it does. If it works, I'd be the first to go, what, free energy? Of course I want that. I'd be the first. I'm sure you'd be there as well, Harry. We're not seeing the evidence of this at the moment, and that's the problem. But when you try to raise issues such as the optics, the aesthetic carnage that is created as a result of some of this, pavements being dug up because one person in the entire estate bought an electric car. When you advance those very reasonable points, bearing in mind it's mostly taxpayers' money, you're met with a sort of stock answer now, aren't you, which is what's more important, a few quid or saving humanity? Because the people on that side of the argument, they've gone for the bullseye. I mean, they're not saying, oh, it's ideal or it's preferable. They're saying, no, this is about literally life and death. So they won't listen to you, Harry, because they're all about saving people's lives.
Well, it's really important that we confront this head on. As Claire Coutinho explained in her speech to Conservative Party conference last week, you don't save the planet by having the most expensive energy on the planet. Yeah. You know, our electricity prices, particularly industrial electricity prices, are the highest in the world. The rest of our electricity prices are amongst the highest in the world. We are witnessing a disaster that no country would want to copy. If we go for cheap electricity, that saves people money in their bills. It also incentivizes people to use electricity, for example, heat pumps and EVs, in a way that would be led by people's choices, led by the market. Instead, what we're seeing is this central planning at every level. And this example of the gullies, that we're being made to subsidize wealthy people with EVs to have a little cable run under the pavement. And this is the name of the game when it comes to net zero: subsidies for wealthy people. We've seen a huge transfer of wealth from ordinary taxpayers to wealthy people who can afford solar panels on their roof, they can afford an EV. But this is an agenda that's hugely damaging to social mobility, and we have much better priorities. The priority should be, let's focus on getting the cost of energy down.
Spot on. Harry, thank you for your time, sir. Appreciate that. Harry Wilkinson, Head of Policy at the Global Warming Policy Foundation. Thank you to him. Let's go back to more of it. Have you noticed, by the way, as it gets into autumn, we all knew that was going to happen, you know, because obviously we didn't have our heating on for about 4 months, maybe longer than that. And then suddenly gets a bit nippy, doesn't it? Certainly in the morning, if you wake up like 5:30ish when I do, it's cold down there. You might want to notch it up. That's why you've got heating, but you shouldn't have to justify why you put the heating on. What'd you do that for? Well, number one, it was cold. Number two, it was cold. That's kind of the reason I have heating in my house. But the minute that kicks in, you're back paying for if you've got electricity and gas or gas central heating, you're back paying 2 bills again, aren't you? I've had a 4-month holiday of just electricity, and that's pricey enough. So anything you've sort of saved up in your little account, when you pay, you go, oh, I'm in credit with the energy people. Isn't that great? Yeah, till about September, mate. And then you're no longer in credit, and it just goes down and down, and then round and round it goes again.